Police arrest a man and charge him with using a stolen tow truck to steal stranded vehicles. It all boils down to being able to prove it. We're talking physical evidence, proof it wasn't consensual and that force was used. More arrests are likely. This after the two walked out of a Florida prison using fake documents. I mean, Chastity, it felt like it was raining outside. Yeah. And what I was hearing was all the ice melting from my roof. But it's not often we hear from the victim. And in most cases, it's because they're afraid. Okay. Well, that's a long way off, but something to look forward to. You can hear the excitement behind me. We've got the manga parade rolling. It is a community problem. You don't think so? Consider this. 65% of convicts were dropouts. Major damage left in the wake. A confirmed EF2 tornado hit Theodore just before 9 o'clock this morning. Okay, this is the Wheel of Fortune bus. It travels with the show whenever it goes on location. I'm going to see if we can go inside and take a peek. Here's what's really going on. Criminals are searching the web looking for houses for sale. They take information in the ads, swap out the contact information with their own email address. It's tonightsdaily.com, so why not grab some popcorn and pull up a seat. Only days after a winter storm ripped through the Atlanta area, police arrest a man and charge him with using a stolen tow truck to steal stranded vehicles. Unbelievable, right? Well, as we told you last week, thousands of drivers had no choice but to leave their cars on the side of the highway because the city was caught off guard by a storm. A few days later, investigators say this guy, Lewis Mitchell, started going around with a tow truck and towing cars. Problem is, police say he was stealing those vehicles. He was stealing one of them, in fact, when officers noticed something was going on.
He thought the markings on the tow truck were a license plate.
Officers say Mitchell took off running, but he was found hiding in a house nearby. He faces a number of charges. The stolen vehicles, by the way, are now waiting for their real owners. Did you watch the Super Bowl last night? It was the most watched television event in U.S. history, drawing over 111 million viewers. That breaks the record set by Super Bowl game 2 years ago between the Giants and the Patriots. It's the fourth time in 5 years that a Super Bowl game has set a viewership record, too. Last year's game with 108 million viewers was the exception. And Fox says more than 2 million people watched its online stream of the game. I didn't even know they had that. A rescue operation underway in Indonesia after a huge volcanic event over the weekend. Mount Sinabung erupted. That sent ash clouds with temperatures of over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit down its slopes in just 2 to 3 minutes. The ash engulfed at least one village. Many of the victims didn't stand a chance of surviving. And all 16 people are confirmed dead, and among them, a local TV journalist, 4 high school students, and their teacher who apparently were visiting the mountain to see the eruptions up close.
One suspect is in jail tonight in connection with a brutal attack against an elderly Chickasaw man.
Our Renee Dials has been following this story. She's at Metro Live now with the latest on the investigation. Renee?
For going out of his way and ultimately saving his sight.
It's a story you'll only see here on Fox 10 News. Dr. Graff drove through last week's nasty winter storm when his patient became stranded at home. He walked several blocks just to treat him. Alcia Braggs is an 80-year-old Vietnam veteran and an amputee with a very rare eye disease. He was supposed to be treated last Wednesday after an infection, but you remember a lot of streets and highways were closed because of the ice.
Dr. Graff took it upon himself You're going to hear from the doctor and also what this meant for Alcia.
Should be a neat story. And speaking of neat stories, got to tell you about a young boy in our area trying to make a difference for hundreds of sick children this Valentine's Day. We're talking about 9-year-old Tanner Long. He knows a thing or two about illness. He suffers from a life-threatening heart condition. He says kind words and support meant a lot to him, especially to others when they're in those shoes. So this year, he's writing Valentine cards to kids in local hospitals.
The kids don't feel left out or forgotten.
The cards are part of a community service project to help Tanner achieve his black belt in Taekwondo. If you'd like to join in on the effort, you can. Go ahead and help Tanner make those cards at ATA Martial Arts. That's on Hillcrest Road. He's going to be there tonight and tomorrow from 4 till 8.
At the end of the Super Bowl last night, he was pretty pretty comfortable, and I thought it would be the same this morning when I stepped outside.
It was not comfortable at all, Jason. On top of the cooler conditions, it was a little windy, too.
Beer drones.
Okay, well, the anglers loved it, but the FAA grounded operations. Fox's Jonathan Cho has that story. Wow. The FAA, by the way, is expected to release new rules on governing commercial drones next year. So, Simone, what's flying around in sports next?
Well, hello there, everyone, and happy Mardi Gras. I'm Lenise Ligon coming to you live atop the Hargrove in downtown Mobile. You can hear the excitement behind me. We've got the MAMDA parade rolling. Thank you so much for being here. Letitia Bush and Chastity Bird back in the studio. Guys, let's listen in really quickly as the parade marches on. And you can see more of the MAMDA parade there going by. But we've been out here throughout the morning, starting with Fox 10 News this morning. Steve Alexander was bringing you coverage. Bob and I joined you mid-morning as the Order of Athena got the party started here in downtown Mobile this morning. You had thousands of people lining up for that parade. I want to talk about some of the things that we saw on that parade route for this Fat Tuesday. You know, this was the 60th anniversary for the Order of Athena. Here, I have to tell you, you can see the cleanup crews are out behind me. We're live in downtown Mobile here on Royal Street where the MAMDA parade just wrapped up, and it was a party. I saw a lot of train floats in that parade there and a lot of throws. At one point, you saw one of the guys just toss over a whole bag worth of moon pies. I wish I was down there, but we did manage to catch something, some donuts. My photographer and I, Josh, felt pretty lucky. These are going to taste good in a few minutes. It is still cold and wet out here, but still people are having a good time, and one of those people having a good time is Fox 10 News reporter Michael Brandon. Hey, Michael, did you catch anything? Meanwhile, we want to take you to some of the sights and sounds that we had from Baldwin County. You know, the city of Orange Beach hosting its 30th anniversary of Mardi Gras today, and a lot of people joined in that celebration. We want to take it over to our Katie Weiss, who was also there for all the good times. And again, it was so nice to hear from our Katie Weiss, bringing the sights and sounds to us all the way from Orange Beach. Chastity Bird and Letitia Bush have been holding things down, if you will, from the studio. Chastity, I know this has been a long day for you, but it's kind of hard for me to have any sympathy for you right now with my voice cracking because I've been out here in the cold and wet. Bob and I asked earlier when all of this nasty wetness was going to stop, and I have to say, it's just gotten worse.
Yeah, it's the latest medical breakthrough in heart treatment, and it's being performed in our backyard. I had the opportunity to check it out firsthand. Author James is in his early 50s. He's prepped and ready for surgery.
I've been shorter breath for the last year or so.
The symptoms he had of shortness of breath and fatigue were the early stages of heart disease. To keep it from getting worse, doctors had to act fast.
Just a little nervous,
Cardiologists perform cardiac catheterizations to get rid of the blockage. And this is what a catheter looks like. A flexible tube about 2 millimeters around, or the width of a grain of rice. It's used to insert the stent that will help keep the coronary artery open and improve blood flow to James' heart.
The Achilles heel of putting in a stent has typically been bleeding complications. So again, if you take that out of the equation altogether with a radial procedure, it adds to the benefit for the patient.
Typically, the access point is in the groin area. But as you just heard, doctors at Fairhope's Thomas Hospital are going for something more radical. Catheterization via the wrist. That's right, doctors accessing your body's circulatory system through your wrist. Then using dye to show where the cath is traveling, they thread the tube towards your heart and insert the stent. To close that access point, doctors use a compression device called TR. Right, see, the procedure takes about an hour to perform, and then once they're finished, doctors will take this TR band and put it on the patient's wrist. It holds pressure on the artery so the patient can walk around more freely. It's a less stressful option for patients, but doctors say the real benefit here is fewer complications.
Heart disease is the #1 killer in America, but you don't have to end up in the OR if you maintain a healthy lifestyle.
Is it really that simple, though? No smoking, maintain exercise, and a good diet?
Yes, it is. I mean, it is that simple. We have, no question, there's some patients that are much more prone to coronary disease from a genetic predisposition. However, again, with good diet and exercise, you really can prevent a lot of it.
James admits he hasn't done the best job in taking care of himself. He's had 2 heart attacks and smoked a lot. What he wants now is simple.
Hopefully I'll come out of this breathing with, not being so short of breath.
That, and to be around for his 4 children and grandkids.
Wow, you really had full access there.
Oh yeah, the hospital was great. They let us inside and the patient was nervous, and I was thanking him for letting us join him on that journey.
Because we can learn a lot from him. Well, cardiologists have been treating and diagnosing heart disease with catheters for decades.
Yeah, and while that wrist technique has been performed in countries like Japan and Europe for quite some time, it's relatively new for the U.S.
Yeah, and this Valentine's Day, you can show your heart some love. We hope you'll join us for Go Red Gulf Coast.
It's a free heart screening event including BMI, weight, height, and blood pressure screenings, a cholesterol check, all while supplies last. Now, cardiologists, dietitian, and other health representatives will be on site too.
It's happening next Friday, February 14th at the Fox 10 Studios, Thomas Hospital and North Baldwin Infirmary from 8 until 11 a.m.
And don't forget, tomorrow is Go Red Day.
Yes.
So you're in the market for a house. Why not look on the internet? After all, you can find anything online these days, right? Unfortunately, you're not the only ones looking. Others are out there too, looking to score your money. So tonight we're exposing online rental schemes and giving you the tools to protect yourself. It's a Fox 10 News special report.
Susan Caver has taught in the Baldwin County school system for a long time. She's seen a lot in the classroom over the years, but little did she know she was about to learn something new. It all started when her house sold faster than expected. She and her husband needed a temporary place until their new home was ready.
My son called and said, "Mom, go look hotpads.com, and I think there's a house that might just be perfect for you." And Dad,
she found the perfect rental house on hotpads.com. It looked fine, the location was ideal, and the $600 to rent was a steal. The supposed landlord wanted an application, a $600 deposit plus first month's rent, then the couple could get the keys.
Whoever it was began to tell me that their husband was a medical doctor in Longwood, Florida, and that they would be there about 3 years, and they really were searching for someone who would just rent the house and take care of it like it was their own.
But the house isn't for rent, and the real owners don't live in Florida. They live in Baldwin County, and they say they're selling their house for $175,000.
We were, I guess, kind of floored, if you will. But other than that, I mean, we really didn't know what to think.
So here's what's really going on. Criminals are searching the web looking for houses for sale. They take information in the ads, swap out the contact information with their own email address. They then post that bogus information on a real website and sit back and wait for an unsuspecting renter to take the bait.
We went to the Baldwin County Realtor Association to see if they knew what was happening. We talked to the Vice President, Martha Taylor.
And it's always like this home should be renting for at least $1,200 or $1,300 a month, and it's showing up as $800 a month.
So that's how they hook them.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what they do.
Taylor told us these rental housing schemes are a real problem in Baldwin County, and it's not just bad news for people looking to rent. As a result, many shocked homeowners receive knocks at their doors from people who are planning to move into what they thought was their new rental home.
We have a company that had a brand new listing in Spanish Fort, and it appeared on Trulia as a rental, a very low price rental. And unfortunately, the house is occupied and people are showing up at their door.
Taylor says real estate agents flag the bogus ads and try to get them taken down.
The company that I'm dealing with now, they've spent hours trying to get it stopped, and I've spent hours, and
Just trying to get that one house off.
Just trying to get that one house, and it's still there.
First, agents have to find the various .coms where the fake ads are listed. They then have to contact the website, which in many cases don't have a phone number. But surely these individuals are being prosecuted, right?
In some of these countries that are host of these, it's not even a crime in their country to do what they're doing. So there's very little we can do a lot of times.
Baldwin County Sheriff Huey Hall-Smack told us there haven't been any local prosecutions because criminals are just too hard to track, and most of them are outside of the U.S. It's one of the many growing pains in a growing county. Baldwin County has seen a population increase of 30% over the last 10 years. With so many new projects, the county has become a bullseye for paper crime.
I think we're going to see an increase. There's no doubt about it.
To keep up, law enforcement realizes some changes need to be made.
A lot of times an internet-based fraud is a faceless crime. You're looking at a computer screen, but you really don't know what's behind that computer screen. And so I think law enforcement is going to have to become better prepared to work crimes from the desktop, so to speak, opposite our traditional role, which has been out in the communities and things of that nature.
The sheriff says investigators are being trained in computer forensics. But when it comes to the internet, you might be your best protection. Only deal with local landlords. Be suspicious about using wire transfers. It's hard to get your money back. Third, consider typos and poor English a red flag. And finally, research the rates in that area. If the rental comes in suspiciously low, just walk away. It's called being diligent, a lesson Susan can teach us all.
It angers me that we cannot get online and feel safe this day and time. Will I ever go to Hot Pads or use Craigslist? Or not me. I'm through with that kind of stuff, you know. Going to be more protective of myself online.
Yeah, and sadly, it's not just happening in Baldwin County. It's happening everywhere, really. If you come across this crime, report it to the Federal Trade Commission. We'll get a link to the form up on our website for you, fox10tv.com, on how you can do that. But bottom line, all the experts say, if you know something's too good to be true, chances are it is.
You're watching Fox 10 News in high-definition television.
We've had a number of sexual assaults in the area in just the past couple of weeks. We hear about the attacks from police, but it's not often we hear from the victim. And in most cases, it's because they're afraid. Tonight, a young woman is sharing her story with us in hopes of helping other victims to stand up. And I found out she's getting a little help from some high-powered people. At just 17, Jane Doe is a new mom.
I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it is very, very hard.
The pregnancy wasn't planned.
Definitely didn't want a child this soon.
On March 18th of 2008, Jane says she was raped. It's why we're concealing her identity.
He had my neck pinned down to the ground, and I remember having my hands on his forearms, trying to stop him if he was going to try to choke me.
She said the attack happened on a college campus. She stepped out of class to use the bathroom. Before she knew it, feet were sliding under the stall.
I thought he had taken a knife and just cut me. It hurt so bad. I didn't know what he had done. I didn't know.
Frozen in fear, she didn't move until she heard her attacker leave. She cleaned up, went back to class, and tried to forget what happened. That is until several months later when she found out she was carrying a 19-week-old child.
I didn't feel like I did all my best to try to stop him. So that's why I kept it from everybody. You know, I didn't want them to think I was weak.
Ashamed and shocked, 54% of rape victims never report the crime to police. That's according to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, or RAIN, the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization. It took a pregnancy for Jane to finally come forward.
If you will, put yourself in someone's that position, that you have had the most heinous crime committed against you. It's very personal. Many victims feel very embarrassed to talk about it. They are embarrassed. They don't want their family to know.
Making that decision to seek justice isn't easy, which is why what you're about to see next is so troubling. Based on FBI uniform crime reports, out of every 100 rapes, only 12 lead to an arrest. See, it all boils down to being able to prove it. We're talking physical evidence, proof it wasn't consensual and that force was used. And that's only if the attacker's identity is known. Experts say regardless of these devastating statistics, coming forward is step one of the healing process, especially if a child is conceived like in Jane's case.
The House will come to order.
You know, Florida lawmakers are weighing in on this one, too. On April 24th, the Florida House and Senate unanimously passed legislation they hope will enable alleged victims to stand up.
A rapist, and they've done this in the past, they'll use that ability to assert the parental rights to convince the victim not to file criminal charges, or if they have already, not to go forward with the prosecution.
See, based on current law in Florida, the courts can strip a parent of their parental rights if the termination is in the best interest of the child, but that doesn't include rape. Florida's Democratic Representative Dave Kerner says it just doesn't make sense.
If the woman knows that she's going to have to deal with her rapist through the parental rights provision after she has a baby, it's easier to just have an abortion, and especially after just being traumatized and raped. I'm hopeful that it'll allow women to make that decision, knowing that they can terminate their rights.
Representative Kerner sponsored SB 964 after he was alerted about this law in a message on Facebook. It easily worked its way through the legislature and is expected to be signed into law. That's good news for people like Jane.
He took that one day away from me, and I didn't tell somebody for 4 months, and that's enough. Like, I'm just tired of him playing a huge role in my life, you know? He's not going to take any more days from me.
Once signed into law, the new measure would take effect July 1st and apply to all unlawful acts of sexual battery occurring before, on, or after that date. And it doesn't matter if there's a conviction. So far, there's no such movement to pass a similar law in Alabama. Getting back to Jane, her case hasn't been solved yet. She filed a report with Pensacola police, but tells me she's decided to put that case on hold until she figures out her next step.